Please welcome our presenter for today's webinar, Creating Your Digital Marketing Action Plan for 2020 to 2021, Pascal Fintoni. Good morning, Pascal.
Good morning. Thank you very much. I realize it's a rather long title. Apologies, Rory, but a rather important subject that I want to tackle with you and our attendees, whether you're joining us live or on replay. As ever, your support is truly, truly appreciated. So listen, we've got a lot to go through today, Rory. I hope you don't mind. So I'm going to begin with a bit of an introduction, then I'll ask you to come back to help me with some of the questions. We also have a couple of surveys like our friends today to take part in as well, to help us really reflect and think about how we might do things very differently for the forthcoming 12 months. 2020 has been and will be a strange year, both at a business and personal level. And I thought it would be very apt to begin season 3 of the Zoom webinars for Digital Knowledge Exchange and Digital Drive County Durham with a strategy session, one where we look, almost at the take an overview of the activities, and then for our friends today and those watching on replay, then what you can do is go deeper into some of the subject matters with forthcoming sessions. I hope you took a look at the August and September kind of diary of events organized by Rory and his colleagues, and it's just stunning. We're very, very fortunate to have that. So again, thank you very much for your support. What I'm going to do is, as I mentioned a moment ago, because there is a lot to get through today, but I don't necessarily want to rush, is I'm going to begin now. But please understand, this is a very interactive session. It is about helping you create your best action plan ever for the next 12 months. So do participate, do ask questions, and do interact as well. So what I'm going to do is I've prepared obviously some visuals, as is often the case, and I want to bring them on screen for you. So once again, big thank you to Rory and his colleagues for all the hard work behind the scenes so that all of us can have a great morning. So, I've been thinking a lot about this. This is actually a new version of what I normally do with you in a room. We normally would be together somewhere either in Yorkshire or County Durham, and we'd be able to interact with each other. So that element is still very, very important. So do ask your questions and the likes. But part of what we want to do today is make sure that we work together and start this process of reflection and a process of adapting our current activities for the next 12 months. And what I have in mind for you is, as a result of this session, but of course the work you'll do beyond today's session, is this idea of, can you potentially do less activities but get better, faster results? That would be an interesting one. Or can you do the same level of activities, but can you do, again, better, faster results? Or potentially they need to introduce some new activities, do a bit more. But again, the idea being that this action plan helps you get faster, better results than you are now. That's the whole point, really. And part of it is for me to show you perhaps a different perspective, a different approach to doing online marketing for your businesses. The other thing that I like to do, I welcome restrictions and limitations. So what do I mean by that is, I'm a big fan of people saying to me, I don't have a lot of time for this, Pascal. And one thing we'll discuss this morning is what I call your time budget. How much time do you have per week to dedicate to the marketing and selling of your products and services? And that figure is what is going to also inform your action plan, which already suggests that we're all going to have different action plan based on our time budget, but also, of course, because of our market and products and services. So part of my reflection has been about you today, again, whether you're live or on replay, and the motivation. So I think for me, you believe and probably have evidence that communicating online is essential to the success and survival of your business. It's not the only way of communicating. Face-to-face will come back. Of course, traditional form of marketing should be still part of the mix. But because we are, after all, a digital skills program, I will spend time on communicating online. The other thing is that perhaps, again, many months spent perhaps indoors, or quite simply you've been doing the same form of marketing for some time now. You're looking for inspiration, looking for an idea, maybe looking for a suggestion that's going to help you feel re-energized by doing online marketing and moving things forward. I think, but importantly, you can tell that over the last months, indeed, as a trend that's been going on for a few years now, the level of inquiring from your prospects and customers via the internet has increased, and you want to make sure that you're prepared for that. In general, I find that people are generally interested in doing a better form of online marketing, but there's so many choices, and sometimes you're unsure about the first steps, or actually, if you've been doing it for a while, what is the next level of evolution for you? You're up for a challenge, typically. That doesn't surprise me. You're all entrepreneurs in your own ways, and you will take action as a result of this session, even if the action is to actually find out more and learn more by taking part in other webinars. So part of my work today is to take you through modules, if you will. That's a turning term for you. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk to you about the action plan, and I'm going to essentially show you perhaps a different way to think about action planning, one that will help a lot. And then within the limitation of time, I did have a time budget myself for today. What I want to talk to you about is search engine marketing. And I've avoided using the term search engine optimization, but we'll visit that. I want to talk to you about social media marketing. I want to talk to you about website management. Within that, there's a running thread, which is essentially talking to you about content. But we'll see. If time allows, I may do just a little extra on content, but please understand that reference to content creation, curation, and collaboration is mentioned throughout the whole of the session. And then we'll close together with a open Q&A. Please ask questions at any time. I will invite Rory to read out the questions to me, and then I will give you answers to the very best of my knowledge. But at the end, we'll pause the recording, and then we'll just talk to each other and support each other, which I think is very, very important. So part of the reason why I'm big fan of doing group sessions, even though this one is different to what we've done in the past, is because quite simply, as you can see on screen, and some of you may have heard me say this again at physical events, this is too important to try and work it out on your own. What I mean by that is that the crafting, the reflection, the shaping of this action plan is too important for your business, for its future success and survival, to just do it on your own, locked away behind a computer screen. We need that interaction, and we'll do the very best we can today. And what is interesting for me to reflect on that is, as I move towards the action plan, is part of what we need to do is understand where we are at this moment in time. How do we feel, about online marketing? I mean, at an individual level, a bit of self-awareness, because I think part of the journey of putting an action plan together is almost across three key elements. So you have to pull together what we're going to call grandly the strategy. But the strategy, which informs the action plan, as you'll see in a moment, invites you therefore to apply your time, but apply skills. So if there are skills that you need to learn, then you need to put together your own personal, professional development plan. And then within that, because you're going to be doing things differently or new activities, we have to have systems to make sure that they do kind of happen, that we don't forget about them because, again, it's new. And to support us and to make life as easy as possible, we need some technical solutions, some tools, some apps. So this kind of strategy, skills, systems, and solutions, the 4 S's, is something that you need to have in mind. Again, keep it super simple, but that's really quite important. So just to kind of get the conversation going, but to help you reflect on where you are at this moment in time, Rory and I have prepared a couple of surveys for you. So I'm going to ask Rory to kind of come back online, if you don't mind, and essentially publish the very first survey for you with some very simple questions. All you have to do is take part by clicking on the relevant values. So the very first one that you've got on screen now is, when you think about digital marketing, in your view, what is your greatest obstacle? and you've got the different suggestion, not enough time, too many options, trying things not move so quickly, left behind, or finding and targeting the right customers. So as it comes to you, don't overthink it. We just select what is right for you.
So we've got some of the results coming in now. We've got about 5 more to go. 75% have voted already. Let's get it up to all 16 of you.
You even get percentage figures with that, Rory. Not exciting.
I don't know which one to read out, number or percentage. Let's have a look then.
Here we go, 100%. Right. So what are the results, Rory?
Here we go. So it's a bit split amongst all 4, actually. Taking the lion's share at 5 votes apiece, we've got not enough time to plan the action, plan and take action, and finding and targeting the right customers.
Okay.
So these are the 2 most selected options. And we also have with 4 votes, we have things move so quickly, being left behind, and we also have with 2 votes, too many options, not sure where to start.
Sure. So if I pick up the first one, Rory, about not enough time to plan and take action, what I will say is I've heard this said by everybody, no matter where they work from. People working for big corporates with piles of money and an army of marketers, all the way to people working on their own. So I think that's something that over the years, I've reached a conclusion that there's not enough time. Let's use the time we've got. And part of the skill or the mindset of a marketer is to just let go of what I call wishful marketing, which is I wish I had more time, I wish I could do this, and concentrate on what you can do, and then celebrating on those small victories. Finding and targeting the right customers nowadays is easier than ever before, and I will talk about this. And I think of the rest about too many options or things moving too quickly. Part of it is once you have a vision, Rory, and once you have an action plan, stay the course and almost kind of shut your ears and eyes to what I call the marketing of online marketing. Ignore the latest app, ignore the this and that. You've got an action plan, you've got a blueprint, you've got to get on with it. And that's part of what we have to do. Okay, can we have the second poll, please?
Yep, absolutely. Here we go.
So what is your greatest fear when it comes to digital marketing? I could ask you that question as well, Rory. Wasting my time on user activities, content being criticized by others, things going wrong, nobody paying attention to my marketing. So let's have a look at what people's...
Going wrong technically for me, actually. There's so many different software tools that are available. You never know with the certain settings and certain places. You just don't know sometimes.
Yeah, we're nearly there. A couple more, but I think. Okay, right. I think that probably it's what are the results, Rory?
So it's pretty unanimous, this one, actually. It's the most select answer with 73% of the vote is nobody paying attention to my marketing, which is taking the lion's share there.
Wow. Do you know, that's a surprise because a few years ago, that would not have been the one people have chosen. That's very interesting because, in fact, that's easily solved or certainly easily kind of supported. That's good. That's good. I'm pleased that it's a very, very different result than what was usually expressed in the past. Okay, can we move on to the third and final one for this early session?
Yep, no problem. Here we go.
So, how confident are you in creating your action plan for 2021? Just as it comes to you, don't overthink it. We'll see. Great. All right. See, that's just about right now. So what are the results for this one, Rory?
Okay, so got 60. Okay, so the most popular vote we have here is okay. So taking 38% of the votes, but with 25% each, we have confident and not confident.
Okay.
Both either side, and we have 13% with this is all new to me.
So for the 2 who have replied, this is all new to me, welcome to the world of digital marketing. And the good thing is, which means that you have no bad habits and no legacy issues. You're just going to go in, with an open mind and so on. For those who've said not confident and okay, I think you might be a little modest, but we shall see. And for those who are confident, excellent. So we now need to take you onto that evolution, that journey, where your version of digital marketing, for all of you, but including for those who are confident, gives you better, faster results. So thanks again, Rory, for that. So what we'll do for a bit of fun is at the end of the webinar, we'll bring that poll again about asking about your confidence to see where you are. But for my part, what I want to do now is move on to a quick preamble about digital marketing action planning and share my thoughts with you. And then we'll move on to search engine marketing. We'll move on to social media. We'll talk about websites, if time allows, about content as well, but that's a running thread, as you know already, and then take your question throughout. So at the end of each kind of subject matter or topic, we'll pause, take your questions, and move on to the next one. So what is important to realize is, and it's something that it's taken me a very long time to understand, is that the quality of results and the quality of the increase in inquiries and sales, which is what it's all about, is not essentially linked to the level of complexity of your action plan and digital marketing. So what I mean by to say is the more complex and the more bloated your online marketing activities are, is not equal more sales and more inquiries. In fact, I found that the opposite is very, very true. A few years ago, I was at we were doing a conference on behalf of a program that we ran again for Leeds City region, and I was asked a question from a group there about when you cut it to the bare essentials, what are we trying to do here with digital marketing? And I was put on the spot a bit, and I just could tell that this was not an audience that would take any kind of waffle and marketing mumbo jumbo. So it just occurred to me that really, for me, what I teach or what I do with my customers, and is driven by a belief that when it comes to digital marketing, it is about very simple things done very well, very often. And I literally kind of said that day. And then I realized that's pretty good, actually. So I kind of wrote it down, memorized it, and it's become the thing that drives me now. Here's the thing. If it's very simple, you're more likely to do it. It's easier to measure. It's easier to modify and improve. And more importantly, it's also much easier to delegate or find someone to help you with. Because it's simple, you're also going to be able to improve over time and make sure it's done very well. And because it's simple, it will be done very often. And the results that can be derived from digital marketing is about that frequency of activities. So it's not just a one-off kind of big bang activity. It can be for some very unique circumstance, but typically it's about that very often done very well, and they are very simple things. So don't be tempted to over-engineer and over-complicate matters. I've seen examples time and time again that it's the simple things. That said, keeping it simple is hard, and we need to kind of study how we might do that today. But hopefully that is reassuring for you that this is about very simple things done very well, very often. Let me know if you kind of like this. And again, thank you to that gentleman back in the days in Leeds who kind of pushed me to come up with something that he could kind of take away. So part of what we do here is action planning, but the action plan is the result of a vision. Sometimes you can use the word strategy, sometimes you can use the word kind of business plan, whatever it be. There's a vision about where you want your business to be in 12 months' time and the steps that are. But that vision also includes elements of your audience. You could describe your audience to me. The vision is informed, of course, by your customers' behavior on the internet, their preferred social media account, their preferred website, their preferred ways of using search engines. And more importantly, that vision is informed by the value you can bring to your customers. What you've heard that question asked before, no doubt. What problems are you solving, or what solutions are you providing? So there's a vision here about your place in this marketplace, and then you start to get into the details with an action plan, subject of today. But that action plan actually gives you a blueprint, a backdrop for daily activities. So this is where you need to get to You want, as a result of today and perhaps future sessions, to describe your daily activities across the week and adopting, specific days of the week for specific activities that can help your business move forward. Each day, a very simple thing is done very well and is repeated week after week. So whilst to you, the marketer, repetition, it seems like not particularly appealing, it's at the heart of the success. So I need to find a way today to inspire you to come up with daily activities that are going to make a difference to your business. And those daily activities to be summarized into an action plan. This action plan is inspired by your vision in terms of your standing in a busy, noisy marketplace. So part of what we need to move on to then is to explain or to discuss what that could look like. Now, for me, when I look at the vision in particular, I look at a couple of things. One is something that we've taken on board as part of this program, which is that the overarching goal of online or digital marketing is to do two things. One is to build your online reputation, the best possible online reputation. And secondly, of course, is to build trust with your prospects. So they are the two kind of elements that are the driving force behind digital marketing, as a result of which you're going to get increased levels of inquiry and sales. So let me recap very quickly. Some of you will know this, but it's important for some of our new friends. Let me recap on online reputation and on trust. So the online reputation really is quite simply what people believe about you and your business based on the information they can gather from the web, whether it's search engines, whether it's a social media post, whether it's your website and more. People will form an impression, an opinion about you and your business based on the content that is available out there. And that's your online reputation. And the good thing is we can take initiative and we have some element of control about what that is. We want, ideally, your prospects and customers to have to look at your content and to almost have three reactions. The three reactions that I'm looking for when it comes to your online content, online reputation. So reaction number one, whether I'm reading, watching, or listening to content, is that I believe you're well practiced. You have done this before. You have expertise and experience that can be relevant to me. The large majority of action plan stop there. And I think in 2020 onwards, it's a bit of a shortcoming. You want to have a more rounded, actually a truer online reputation. So we need two more reactions based on your content. The second one is that you're well researched. You're so interested in terms of what's happening in your industry and the world of your customers that you can't help but keep yourself informed, and you take great pleasure in sharing that information on via different channels, primarily social media. The third and final reaction we want from our content is that you're well connected. Again, you are an active participant in your industry and the world of your customers. You make contacts all the time and you take great pleasure in showcasing those connections and contacts. So well practiced, well researched, well connected is essentially your online reputation. And one of the biggest shortcoming or crime currently in online marketing is that people just focused on the well practiced. Look what I can do. And the difficulty with that is I think it's guilty of what I call under communication. You are far more interesting and kind of far, your reputation is much richer than that. If you concentrate on the other two, well researched and well connected, you're going to have a more interesting action plan, I believe. So that's for the reputation. Again, just a quick summary. We're going to move on to trust, and I'm going to keep it, again, very simple and very straightforward. This is what we now understand about trust. The quickest way to build trust online is to be seen and heard being helpful to someone else. That's it. That's a sentence which has, again, a lot of meaning and kind of significance behind that, but that's essentially the execution of the action plan, is for you to be highly visible in a way where others who are keeping their distance for now, but that could become your future customers, can see you and hear you being helpful. Because you see, when you are helpful to somebody else, that is essentially the kind of echo. This is the mirror image of my future experience as a customer. Because ultimately, my biggest concern as your future customer is not whether you're competent. That's helpful, but I'll take a punt on that. My number one concern as your future customers is whether your customer care approach is outstanding. And the only way I can see that is whether or not the information that you share or the manner in which you use the internet is to be seen and heard being helpful. So feel free to react in the chat box, and Rory can let me know if I need to kind of clarify things for you. But this is what this is all about. The vision is to be seen and heard being helpful to somebody else for trust, and your reputation, which is actually 3 reactions based on your content, well practiced, well researched, well connected. And this essentially informing what we want to do. Now, part of what would be part of the action plan would be, of course, tools of the time. So yes, you'll have a website, no doubt. Yes, some of you will be listed on Google Maps through the Google My Business account. We'll talk about this today. And yes, you'll have some social media accounts. And yes, indeed, you will have a YouTube account. So these are the 4 key elements that will be present within your action plan. But be very careful. You can't let the tools and the platform dictate your action plan, because if you do so, the risk that you run is that your action plan, your activities will be the same as everybody else. So we need to kind of be very careful about that. And my role today is to kind of guide you in how that might be a little different. So the reality for all of you is that the tools, we'll cover them, but the taking action is split into 3 key areas. And this is really where the action plan will say. So there won't be an action plan to do with just a website or just Google My Business or just social. The action plan is down to what will you do when. And there are 3 key areas. You need to spend time creating content, whether that's in a written form, whether there's photography, whether there's video, whether there's audio for podcasting, but time has to be spent on creation. So that has to be part of the action plan, which is what will you do when? The second element, of course, of the action plan is when and where will you publish this information? Will it go on the website? Will it go on Google My Business? Will it go on social? Whatever. So we need to start to actually work out the action plan against the workflow, not just the platforms. And then the third set of activities is to, of course, now that this content is published, it would be a shame for your hard work not to be rewarded. So can we make sure that we amplify its reach? Can we amplify, of course, its access using a number of channels, would be the term: search engines, social media, and email marketing. Now, email marketing will be discussed in a full webinar later on as part of season 3. So today, as you know, as part of the agenda, I'm concentrating primarily on the website, number 2, and on search engine marketing and social media. But really, when you want to discuss your action plan, either with me or with your peers and colleagues, you should be discussing it in that order, which is when and what are you creating, where and when are you publishing it, and where and when are you amplifying your content. These are the 3 stages, which means that the reality is that whilst, of course, if you concentrate on the platforms, you're looking at number 3, by far the most important activity is number 1, which is to create information. That's the most important one. And the quality of number 1 will dictate, therefore, the success of number 2 and 3. So where in the past action plans were always talking about number 3 first, you have to really reset your mind completely and say, everything that I do and the results I'm going to receive and the return on effort would be linked directly to the quality time space that I spend on content creation, because number 2 and 3 is admin. That's it. The real bit of online marketing is in number 1. Publishing and amplifying is simply admin, which can be delegated. So before I move on to something else, I just want to get your reaction. How do you feel about an action plan that follows this workflow of create, publish, amplify, where the platform in a way are present for sure, but they're not just first in your thinking. I want the action plan to actually mirror what it's going to be like for real for you over the next few weeks, few months, and few years. So if you don't mind putting in the chat a yes if you're happy with this language, maybe if you're not sure, and know if you think that's not going to work for you. That's absolutely fine. I just wonder how you feel about create, publish, amplify as a language for your action plans. So I've got a yes from. I've got a few yeses. It's flying through. I've got Elise, Owen, John. Thank you, Laura. Janet is happy with that. Well, thank you very much. Tracy thinks it's a good approach. I think it's worth a try. And then if it's not quite for you, you can always go back to what you're doing currently. So I've got a few yeses. That's nice. Oh, and do people not get bored amplifying to several platforms? No, they don't if you do it correctly, which is what we're going to talk about today. Saying the same content several times is they're simply going to take the view that you're doing a good job to make it accessible to many, and therefore for being on too many platforms at the same time. But just taking apart, I will show you ways to make sure the amplification feels like there's real value behind it. So thank you for the yeses and the comments. So my next question to you is, since number one is so important, you understand that? And if you get number one right, number two and three is going to be a piece of cake, or flow. The quality and the success is going to flow from that. You need to kind of then start to connect with who you are as a creator, as a content creator. So my question to you is as follows: what is your preferred form of content? Do you prefer writing? Do you prefer doing visuals, as in static graphics? Do you prefer video? Or do you prefer audio, as in podcasting? So do you want, are you a writer? Are you a kind of graphic designer? Are you a videographer, or are you a podcaster? I know that these are terms that are a bit grand, but what is your preferred format? So we've got Maddie that says video and webinars work the best for me. So that's connecting with who you are as an author. John, more audio video. Writing is for Janet. Owen, video. Amy, written content with images. Yeah. Caroline, yeah, writing with graphics. Elise prefers static visual content. Claire, writer with images, photos. Emma, written or images. Graphic for Laura. A bit of everything for Minia. Yeah, probably learned. But what is D1 that you take the most pleasure? Tracy, writing graphics, but I wanted to get into more video for Andrew. So the reason why I'm asking this question is as follows: is part of it is to know what you're best at and to really nurture that skill. So if I take the very last one on the list here, Andrew Park, video. So for me, the next 12 months is for Andrew to create even better videos. So each time, thank you, Peter, as well, video. Each time we see video, we can see that the quality is improving, it's getting smarter, this and the other. And the reason I'm saying this is because the temptation, of course, is to try and do a bit of everything, video, writing, this and the other. And actually, in doing so, you just become average at everything. And if, like me, Andrew, you're not a big fan of writing, what you're going to do, you're going to try and spend the next 12 months forcing yourself in writing things. So when it comes to creation, you've got three options, really. Number one, concentrate on what you're best at and be the author, and be a better author with each passing week, month, and years. Number two, curate more. So if, like me, Andrew, and Peter, you're not big fans of writing, nothing's stopping you from curating articles and more created by others. Give them a shout out on social media, but create a lovely roundup of the best articles on the subject of fill the blank. Do that, or invite people to collaborate. So we've got, for example, Tracy, who loves the writing graphic side. Why don't we invite Tracy to be a guest contributor on our website? Here's the thing. It says create on the screen for sure, but I didn't say you had to do it. Your job as the online marketer is to make it happen. Create means that sometimes it be you as the author, sometimes it be things that you found on the web that you kind of repurpose into a roundup, giving credits to, of course, where credits due, and sometimes to invite others to work as collaborators. I know you come across the term guest contributor or guest writer or guest blogger. So this is essentially what you need to do. Remember, your job, well practiced, well researched, well connected. Use those findings, use those connections to help you create better content. And therefore, when it's published and when it's amplified, it's richer, it's better, and so on and so forth. So that's one thing that is very, very important. But there's something else really that I wanted to share with you that is important, which is that since number one is important because it feeds into number two and three, and yes, of course, there are some techniques you can learn around number three, but if you don't have great content, if you don't curate well, if you don't invite collaborators and contributors, your SEO will be the poorer for it. Your email marketing will be the poorer for it. Your social media will be just this kind of banal. So number one is important. And part of it is therefore to make sure that the skill, the number one ingredient that's going to really make your online marketing action plan so superior to the competition is this one. That's it. The best action plan are those who are informed by imagination. And there lies the problem, which is that when you think about the platform first, when you spend your time on WordPress or MailChimp and Facebook advertising platform, when you spend time on those dashboards, when you spend time on the keyboard trying to come up with ideas, they will not come to you. Or I would say that whatever is coming to you will be much poorer. You need to find a form of marketing that stimulates your imagination so that your ideas for content are vastly superior than the competition. And my problem that's been, well, my challenge really, and my issue with online marketing for the last 5 years is that it has stifled imagination. The form of marketing that you are subjected to yourselves as customers is the same as everybody else. It's not particularly imaginative. There's not particularly daring. There's nothing in there but the usual stuff. And the reason for that is that in many cases, because the platforms came first, marketing and online marketing became a chore. How do I get rid of that email newsletter quickly so I can get on with something more interesting? How do I get rid of that Facebook posting quickly so I can go with something more interesting? Don't get me started with SEO and optimization and keywords. The whole debate and discussion of my chosen profession became something that was not particularly interesting, and people wanted to get rid of it quickly so that they could do something more interesting, which was actually to interact with their customers. So part of what we need to do for the next 12 months, bear in mind that we're going to be operating in an environment where the current pandemic will still have its impact. We're still going to have a situation where people will favor to communicate via the internet. They will choose you. They will choose your content. They will spend time on your website. They will spend time with you on social media and will relate to you via the search and the result, because your imagination, the ideas you came up with were far, far better than the current white noise that is on the internet. So part of my role today is to make sure that the way you approach online marketing is stimulating your imagination. And the way I'm going to do that is a number of ways, but primarily I need to find the spark. What's going to make things, what's going to excite you again about online marketing. And I don't mean to say that you're not exciting, but we need to almost elevate your thinking. Then the fuel, which would be the content that's going to work. And then, of course, the engine, which would be your website and your Facebook and your Twitter and your LinkedIn and your MailChimp and more, will work so much better. But we've got to start with that spark. That's essentially my role today. So my role is to explain something today that's going to be very, very different to what you've heard. Beyond today, you're going to have to spend more time on reflection. That's really quite important. So you're going to take away the concept and the ideas and so on, and then you're going to reflect and you're going to mull it over. You're going to write on the whiteboard. You're going to put things down on the pad, whatever. The next stage, that is so, so important. You then need to discuss your ideas with others. You can't just do this on your own, as we are at this moment in time, we're socially distant. Organize a Zoom call, organize something, because let me remind you, this is how an action plan comes to life. And I'm watching these images taken across Yorkshire and kind of Durham, getting quite emotional, thinking, yes, these were the days. But ultimately, the action plan that you are crafting needs the feedback and the views and opinions of others. You can see all of those pictures. These are sessions that I ran, but I'm not really involved. I mean, I'm involved, but these are people talking to each other, sharing. You can see the one with the post-its. You can see the one with the groups around the table. You need to discuss it. You need to kind of talk about it. So part of it is to make sure that you understand today is only phase one of 3 phases. Phase one, which is the explanation. Tomorrow, the day after, you need to reflect, and soon after, you need to discuss. Explanation, reflection, discussion. Can I have in the chat box a yes and maybe in terms of how you feel about this, and this idea of explanation is only one bit. That's what I can do today. You need to spend time on reflection, and you need to have some friends or maybe people from today and get together and share. And what I can do today is give you a common language. I can see a few yeses in the chat box. That's very kind of you. Hi, Karen. Good to see you. Janet, thank you very much. Elise, Andrew, appreciated. All right. So I hope that you didn't mind this kind of preamble, but that's really important because what's coming next is going to be perhaps a bit of a surprise, a bit different, but this is my role to really find a way for your imagination, for the spark, to kind of be part of how you go about putting together the action plan. It is my role to make you think differently. You've seen this before, so you can take different action, very much like this artist you can see on screen. You're going to have the same tools, the same brushes, the same kind of colors and so on, but the result going to be very different. Why? Because of your imagination. All right. With each section, whether it's the search engine, the social media, and the website, I want to create what I call a new mindset, a new way of thinking about it. I'm going to share 2 or 3 tactics that could be part of your action plan. And then on occasion, I may tell you about a couple of tools and apps that can make life a little easier. Perhaps the most important one, in fact, is the mindset. If you get the mindset or accept the mindset to stimulate your imagination, then the tactics will make a lot of sense. Okay, are you ready? Let's begin. So it's kind of fascinating. I've been involved with search engine marketing for now nearly 20 years. It's both incredible and distressing that I'm nearly as old as the internet soon, but kind of what I've learned over time is that the world of search engine optimization, I would argue, has been very poorly explained. I mean, there's some stuff that people are doing okay, and you're very lucky this month we've got another trainer who's going to spend quite a bit of time with you on SEO. But I think, again, the vision and the imagination is not great. So I'm going to go into this new mindset for you and then talk about the 3 tactics very, very quickly. So to begin with, it's back to visioning. And we know that right now somebody is talking about you to somebody else that they know, and I would like to think that they are saying great positive things about you. So word of mouth marketing is at the heart of what we do. So this person is listening away at one of your customers thinking, wow, well, thanks. Do you know what? I'm going to go and check this out. This sounds excellent. So, of course, what they do is they go on Google or Yahoo or Bing, same behavior, and they're going to vaguely remember your name. They're going to probably remember your business name. They're going to vaguely remember what you do, where you're based. So they're going to put a phrase of sort to try and find out more. And what you want to avoid is this, which is that I listen to one of your customers, I take away the information, I form an impression, an opinion about who you are and how you do what you do. And this is what we want to avoid. So the goal of search engine marketing is to support word of mouth marketing and to avoid this reaction, which is, I don't get it. I listened to my friend a moment ago. I was super excited. I was really interested to know more. When I went online, there wasn't much there, or what was there was the same as everybody else. And more importantly, what was there did not match what my friends told me. And essentially, the risk that you run with search engine marketing is to under-communicate. That is, it doesn't match what you would say yourself face-to-face. More importantly, it doesn't match what your champions and advocates essentially are saying. But we can certainly rectify that. So part of what we do is to change our mindset. So to begin with, we need to believe in word of mouth marketing. The second thing that we do is to challenge this sentence. I mentioned a moment ago, I'm not a big fan. Search engine optimization. I'm a linguist at heart. I love languages. I love the meaning of words. And I just think that it's not a great sentence. We're kind of stuck with it. We're stuck with the acronym SEO, but I think it's far more important. Now, if you think about what I've just described to you, this idea of somebody seeking out content about you, from you, or about you from others, even better, to kind of confirm to themselves that what they've heard is indeed correct, or indeed to confirm that when they bumped into you at the networking event, we'll come back to those no doubt, or when they saw you or read your content, they want to know a bit more and they feel a little shortchanged. So all the work you're going to be doing when it comes to the search engine marketing is to anticipate, to predict almost what kind of content would impress, or what kind of content would match what you would say, what others are going to say about you, and make sure it's present. So this search engine optimization sentence is nonsensical to me, because the energy you're going to spend on content and the energy you're going to spend on making people sure they go to your website suggests to me that the real sentence is this one. Website content optimization. You're going to do your utmost to optimize the chances of people accessing your content primarily on the website. There will be other options, but by and large, that is. So for me, your action plan, you shouldn't necessarily say SEO, whatever. You should say website content optimization, and then you can talk about Google, Yahoo, and Bing. But that's the language. So that's the new mindset for me, which is that you have a lot of control over this. It's your content, it's your website. You're trying to find ways to maximize its relevancy, but how it will mirror what someone would say or what you would say during a face-to-face or online encounter. So before I move on to the tactics, I think something further I should check with you. Are you happy? And please feel free to disagree. Are you happy for your action plan to use the term website content optimization to stimulate your imagination? And then, once you're amongst friends or experts, you can go back to SEO. But I need you to kind of, again, reset the mind and rethink all this environment. So I can see a few yeses flying by. And listen, I'm a big fan of SEO as a practice when done well. I just find that the language has caused me problems as a trainer, as a mentor, and I prefer this one. But you don't have to necessarily agree, that's for sure. We've got a happy thinking about it like that from Daniel. We've got a thumbs up from Karen. Maddie's happy too. So, well, thank you. I'm pleased. So is tricky, those little experiments with new mindset. So website content optimization. So how does it work? So let's move on to your tactic. Thanks everyone for the feedback. So tactic number one. It's a very simple one. You're going to do very well very often. Back to what we said earlier. And here, what we have is this idea of the Google CV. So tactic number one, by far the most important, is to take the initiative, predict the future, and create your own Google CV. What do I mean by this? If you look at Google, and by the way, this is also, of course, relevant for Yahoo CV and Bing CV, the three main search engine. I'm using Google because I think it's by far the most popular one. Now, if you look at Google and all other search engine, they have different search services. They have the all kind of universal search result, but they have news, they have videos, they have maps, and they have images. And each of those search services have their own audiences. I mean, truthfully, even if you don't, people will be on Google News a lot. People will use Google Maps a lot. Google Images, apart from YouTube, is by far the most popular way to find information, on the web. My suggestion to you is as follows. If I was to Google you now using your name, your business name, maybe your occupation, and if I was to click on all, then news, then videos, then maps, then images, what would I find? Because let me tell you that whatever I'm going to find across all news, videos, maps, and images will be, as far as I'm concerned, who you are, what you do. This is your online reputation. Now, if you think that there's so much more that Google should say about you and your business across all news, videos, maps, and images, well, guess what? You can do it. You can take an initiative and create information. Minimum, you should have a very rich Google CV against your business name and who you are as an individual. That's element of control. Then you can move into search engine campaigns where you want to be found against just what you do, not who you are, but you have a lot of control over certainly who you are and where you're based. So my question to you is as follows. We are about visioning and imagination. In August 2021, so in a year's time, what will your Google CV look like? What would be the difference between today and in 12 months' time? And the way to essentially do that, and you'll have obviously through Rory and Kirsty, you will send some of the handouts. You can pull together a prediction. So tomorrow, as part of reflection, you can predict in advance what kind of videos will be on YouTube. Don't worry about how you're going to do it yet. You need to use imagination. What about Google News, Google Maps, Google Images, Google Search? So you can essentially imagine in advance what a difference a year can make. And again, using imagination, not necessarily limitation in terms of what you know, what you can do, because usually the implementation can be easily resolved. I need you to imagine the best possible Google CV for your organization. And you're going to write them down. You're going to use Post-it or whiteboard, doesn't matter. You're going to let your imagination run free. And then right there in front of you, you may have a year's worth of ideas, and you're going to pick them one by one. So on YouTube, you have maybe 20, 30 different ideas. You can't do them all at the same time. So you'll do one a month, one a fortnight, one a week, depending on your time budget. But to predict the future, think of it as another image for you. Think of the Google CV, the future one, as your annual report for those of you who come from the corporate life. You want your annual report to really kind of sing your praises about what you've done. This is how to approach website content optimization, to imagine the results, and that imagination, that list of ideas, become essentially the way you're going to put it into your action plan. So I hope that's helpful as a concept for tactic number one. Yes, so Amy, I've just seen the chat that you share the name with people who have the wrong kind of reputation. So I've had clients like this, not clients who are criminals, clients who had the names of people that were known for the wrong reasons, and therefore you need to work harder. So what we've done with the clients is we use first name, surname, and occupation, and that became the sentence. We pushed hard and hard and hard. We changed the Twitter account, we changed the Facebook page, we changed the details on the website, so that the world or the market became used to saying Amy Russell and what I call a qualifier. So I hope that's helpful. But yeah, it's kind of easier with a name like mine, understandably. But there you are. Google's CV, tactic number one. Let me know whether you're happy with that. It's going to help your imagination. Yes, maybe, or no. Let me move on to tactic number two. And just going to quickly go out because you'll know about Google My Business already. Tactic number two. Thank you everyone for the feedback. Appreciate it. Thanks, Caroline. Thanks, Claire. Number two, you're going to like this one a lot. So you're getting on with your Google CV. You are increasing the quality of content. It's matching more what you want people to believe about you and so on. And right now, we need to make sure that we accelerate things. You can't just wait for things to happen. So what we're going to do is create what I call your search triggers. We need to trigger something. We need to make somebody curious about you. This is what you have to do. So you have to kind of create your own luck. Again, when it comes to website content optimization, you can take so much initiative. You have so much control, a lot more than perhaps you thought. So what do I mean by search triggers? Right now, your prospects are not looking out for you. They're not looking for information about you beyond maybe the word of mouth marketing. And that's an important one. So we need to create more reasons to be looked into. So the way to do that is to simply ask yourself these questions. Your online customers, your future prospects, right now, today, where do they go for their news, reviews, updates, and advice? If we assume that they are using the web to keep themselves informed, my question to you is, where do they go for that? Because if you know where they go, you might be able to actually work in collaboration with those organizations and more. So a little exercise you can do as part of your imagination again and your action planning is to kind of design what I called your client's trust network. So we want other websites to trigger an event. Someone goes, oh, I didn't know about this organization, I didn't know about this individual, who are they? And they can either Google you or click on the link and check out your website. Those such triggers will come from 4 categories of websites typically. So the first one, which I think you should definitely exhaust in your sector, are the directories and review websites. So would your customers consult a directory, such as Google Maps and many others? And if so, can you make sure your business is listed and whatever information is required is input in there? So that's number 1 and user 1. The next one you can look at is, where do they go for their news? So particularly if they're looking for local news, or if you're looking for sector-specific news or occupation-specific news, this is why you need to know your audience. Where would they go for their news? And knowing that will allow you to do 2 things. A, you could curate the news from that website to be seen to be well researched and kind of get some more content. But you could also contact the editors and managers of those websites and offer your quality as an author. So if you do videos, offer to do videos for them. If you write, offer to write for them, and so on. Trust me, those news and updates websites are desperate for content. And I think you do well to work in collaboration with them. The other one is, they would be limited for now, but some of them have gone online, of course, but your customers, would they attend any form of trade show, event, expos, fairs, that kind of thing? So again, you can Google that stuff. It's that easy. If you know the occupation of your customers, if you know the sector that they operate in, you could just simply Google, pop in some keywords, you'll find the events. So you've got 2 things. If they've gone online, they'll be very, very keen to have people that will contribute to their online experience. So could you hold a webinar for them? Could you write an article for them? If they are planning 2021, then can you be early in through the doors to become a contributor to their event and so on? And then final one is, your customers, would they belong to a membership organization? Would they belong to a form of business group or business club, association? It could be very informal, it could be very formal, but those type of gatherings, if you will tend to have a website, will tend to have social media. And again, they'll be very, very keen to have content, because they find it very challenging to run the websites and come up with content. So the exercise is to research by simply Googling and just make the approach. Just be confident and say, I'm a specialist in this subject. I love writing about it. Would you be interested to receive some of my contribution? And by the way, you can check on our website to see what I've been up to. Because without the search triggers, it's going to be a bit too slow. So you'll be doing all this work inspired by your Google CV, but you're not going to get the traffic to the way that you want it to be. And for those of you today who know about SEO, of course, it's just a more elegant version to talk about backlinks, but this is the version you want to do. So tactic number 2, search triggers, very, very important. Spend some time, find one directory, find one news website, find one trade show, one membership organization. That can make a huge difference. Let me move on to tactic number 3, then I'll take your question on this business of website content optimization. So number 3, this one, actually, it was a friend of mine who taught me about it. And to this day, I think it's absolutely inspiring. So I've not told the story for a while, actually, but I'm going to share it today. So if in tactic number 1, we talk about your Google CV at the heart of website content optimization, in tactic number 2, we talk about search triggers. How do we kind of make someone curious about you and not wait for things to happen by chance? We can also accelerate things by looking at what I call search agents. So let me tell you the story. I think you understand that. So you can see on screen a screenshot of a website from a gentleman called Chris Ducker. You can see him smiling on the top right-hand corner, and website chrisducker.com. And you can see here a blog post, the title, How to Build a Successful YouTube Presence, with James Wedmore. So we can see that we have essentially a guest, James Wedmore, like you can see his picture just below the podcast player. This is blog article number 5. And Chris invited James to talk about YouTube presence and how to build a successful presence on YouTube. At the time, and we're going back some years now, I must confess, I saw this, and I remember getting in touch with Chris and said, Chris, I'm a bit confused. Why are you inviting somebody to answer a question to which you know the answer yourself? I mean, don't you want people to believe that you're the expert about all things YouTube, and why would you want to dilute the impact and whatever? And these answers, it was very simple to say, listen, Pascal, I'm just starting here, and I'm just beginning, and people don't know me, and it's taking just so long to build that visibility and credibility that I find a far more interesting and rewarding way to do this, which should be in conversation with others. But hey, here's the thing. Once the article and the podcast, everything else is published on my website, and I send a thank you email to James Wedmore, what do you think is going to happen next? Well, James will tell the world about it. He's going to put it on LinkedIn. He's going to put it on Twitter. He's going to put it on, Google Plus at the time, no doubt, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to have somebody promoting my content and making people curious about me. And then they can Google me if they want to know more. And my Google CV will be ready to be kind of checked out. So James Wedmore becomes a search agent. He's kind of almost acting as your word of mouth kind of officer and working in that way. So tactic number 3, inviting a guest and having conversations so that they then share that conversation and that content with their network, accelerating the chances to be checked out and be visible. As a result, of course, earning you some extra brownie points with the search engine. So this is as much as I wanted to kind of explain when it comes to website content optimization. Before we go for our comfort break, and as you can understand, at the heart of it, and the reason why I start with search engine, if you understand that and if it's helping your imagination, everything else, from social media to website, is going to become so much easier if you've understood, how to play the game with website content optimization. So over to you. Are there some questions or anything you want me to clarify before we move on to our comfort break? And I will ask Rory kindly to help me keep track of the questions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure. We've got a question in here from, I think may have been answered already, actually, from Amy. I think that's already been answered, yeah. So if you've got any questions, please do submit them by the Q&A box on your panel, on your toolbar.
So I'm just reading a question from Amy, because I did reply one about the unfortunate, this news article that I published by news website. So unless I get news article published by myself and my business, will this never change? Okay, so just to be clear about if that's relating to the search triggers, Amy, what you're looking for is obviously to be discovered by your customers by being present on website that they are accessing on a regular basis, the news website, their go-to news website. So your approach is twofold. One is you can, of course, use this news website to curate and share some of the news article with your network. Social media will come to mind, but also you can do a lovely news roundup. So every month, the news, from your industry, they can be listed with hyperlinks back to the source. But more importantly, you're going to get in touch and you're going to offer your time and expertise to answer questions. So it's not so much an article about your business and you, that's implicit. It would be an article where you are asked to answer questions and support, obviously, their audience. So the likelihood is the large majority of those news websites, those trade shows, as I mentioned in the kind of trust network, and those membership organizations, they're going to publish a press release as in, here's Amy, this is how amazing she is, go and buy some. Now, what they're going to say is, here's Amy, and she knows tons about this subject matter, and here's some of her advice to you. That would be most likely, what you're going to do. So I hope that answers the questions. Daniel, what do you mean by I've no idea where they go for that? Can you clarify that? Because I'm keen to answer the questions. Yeah, try it. I mean, do you know, they have an expression, not where I come from, but where I live now, shy Bens get out. So you'd be very surprised, happily surprised, when you make an approach in that basis where you say, I'm passionate about this, I've got lots of ideas in my head, lots of advice, I'd love to share it. as a result of which you get your PR. So yeah, Daniel, if you can clarify what you mean by your question, we'll help you with that.
We do have 3 questions that have come in
Oh,
through.
okay. Thanks, Rory.
The first one's from Peter, and he'd like to know more about curation. What exactly is it, and how do you do it?
So curation, Peter, is something that you and I have discussed before. What you do is you choose a subject matter, you choose a theme, and you explore that, thoroughly. And what you want to do is, frankly, use Google as your friend. You want to find articles, you want to find videos, you want to find podcasts, you want to find ebooks about that subject matter, that topic, or that questions, and you want to share it pretty much as you find it via social media, explaining, of course, that you are curious about the subject matter or you've had a lot of questions. Once you feel that you've done enough curation, what you can do then is write an article on your website summarizing all those findings. So to date, you'll be sharing it one by one. So as you find, those articles, as you find the videos, you share them pretty much, as is. But at the end of the month, maybe what you could do is pull together a monthly roundup. So in July, these are the best articles, the best videos and podcasts on that subject, pointing obviously to the authors, being a responsible curator. But it's a very powerful way to build traffic and to build attention, for sure.
Brilliant. And we also have a question here from Marianne. Page content, it's about page content. We have a blog as part of our website. We use the recent news. Now we have pages with low word counts. I want to change these to articles. Should I hide them from Google whilst doing that?
No, don't do that. Just make sure that 2 things, you can mix it up. I mean, I think long form, medium form, and short form, just mix it up on your website. But what you need to do for your visitors more than the search engine is make sure that the naming and the labeling of those different styles are very clear. So I would say give your short form content a name. It's almost like a series in its own right. That's what sometimes I refer to as a Netflix model. And then give your long form content its own name. So almost like it's a unique series. And thinking for all of you, by the way, which is something that I'm going to touch on when we talk about website, thinking about blog series as opposed to blog posts is going to be far more helpful moving forward. So I wouldn't hide them, but I would just make sure that for the visitor, it makes sense that there's some bite-sized bit of content and there's some more kind of authoritative bit of content. And the reason why is because they've been named differently. They look different maybe with the graphics and so on and so forth.
Cool. And then we just got one last question here from Munir. Should marketing be a mix of engagement and advertising, and what should be the split?
It depends entirely on your budget and your sector. So yes, you can mix advertising in there. And the reason why it's not included today is simply time, but also because it's a given. You can advertise or not advertise. What with the split? There isn't a rule. I mean, if you work in a strong B2C environment, it could be almost quite opposite to a B2B. So I can't give you an answer, Munir. What I will say is budget and audience goodwill in terms of how much advertising they're happy to see until they take the next step. The next step would be to consume, of course, your content and get in touch. Experiment is going to be the only way forward, I think.
Perfect. Well, that's all the questions you have for now.
Okay. Well, tell you what then, shall we use now as time for our comfort break? So if you're happy, Rory, we'll come back in 5 minutes. So let's say, 20 past. That makes it easy to remember. So 20 past 11, we'll come back and we'll move on swiftly, because this has been the lion's share website content organization, swiftly through social media and websites.
Cool. See you in 5.
Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed your break, stretch your legs a bit. So I'm just gonna bring this slide up whilst people rejoin the session. Right. So once again, thank you so much for the feedback and the comments through this webinar masterclass. You could argue on how to approach creating your action plan for 2021 with a different mindset, with a different kind of perspective on online marketing, and importantly, learning from some of the misunderstanding and mistakes of the past, where we gave the platform, I think, far too much importance in terms of letting the platform dictate the design of our action plan. And in fact, I just brought this slide back on screen. We need to have an action plan that is actually mirrors the reality of creating and implementing the action plan, should I say. We have to spend time creating information. We have to spend time publishing. We have to spend time making sure that this information is reaching our audience correctly, using amplification. Today, we've discussed search engine optimization with a different mindset. We're going to move on to social media and websites. So part of wanted to make sure before we move on to social media is to ask you, which platforms are you currently using for your social media marketing activities? If you're happy to list them in the chat area for me, that would be lovely. So I just get a sense of who's in the room. So we've got Amy using LinkedIn, big fan. Facebook and Insta from Ellie's. We've got Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn from Caroline. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram from Claire. Facebook from Emma. Thank you very much. Janet using LinkedIn and Twitter. Facebook and Twitter from Melissa. Laura, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Excellent. Tracy, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Andrew, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Okay, so we've got some of the major brands listed there, which is great. So again, it makes sense that you would want LinkedIn from Karen. You'd want some better, faster result from social media. I think that's only fair. And importantly, where you use the next 12 months, very, very differently. So let's move on then to the section I prepared for you on social media marketing. So again, I've been involved in social media for quite some time, and I wouldn't say it's been as problematic as SEO, but we've had ups and downs with the subject matter. So you know the format now, a new mindset, and I've got two tactics I want to share with you, and then we'll take your questions. So let's begin with let's begin with a new mindset. This is a good one. I think you'll appreciate it. So you have a LinkedIn account, you have a Facebook account, you have an Instagram account, you have a Twitter account. These are, the names. But actually, when it comes to the mindset and when it comes to actually the imagination that you have to apply to make sure that you have followers that become your biggest fans, you need to actually take away from today that this tool you've been given is in fact a digital TV channel. It's a digital TV channel. If you think about what you can do with a platform, it's essentially your broadcasting tool or narrowcasting tool, if you want to be more precise. What you can share in terms of content, the way you plan it, the way you execute, it's so similar to running an independent TV channel that we should play to that. And my question to you, therefore, is that since you're in charge of the programming, which is a term that they would use as TV producers and TV channel managers, since you're in charge of the programming, my question to you, and this is what the action plan needs to kind of summarize for you, is what are your daily and weekly shows? And I use the term shows on purpose. So you need to be in a position where every day and for different days of the week and so on, and different weeks of the month, you have some different shows, you have some different content being published the same way you would if you run this as a TV channel. the dailies and weekly shows. And what we're looking for here is diversity and something that your audience can look forward to. So I make no approaches, but this is exactly the way you would think if you were in charge of this channel. Different days of the week, different times of the day, different weeks of the month, you do something a bit different to keep your audience very loyal to you. So if you work for Channel 5, you don't want them to spend time on ITV4 and so on and so forth. So this is essentially what it should look like. So how do we do that? Well, we begin with our first tactic. And the first tactic is to, as perhaps I alluded a moment ago, we need to create a richer schedule, as you would if there was a TV program. To begin with, of course, your first thought as a TV programmer or the head of programming is to think about what I call the marketing. So the first M, marketing, which is I will share information about who we are, what we do, and how well we do things, and I'll do some behind the scenes and so on. But usually the first thing that comes to mind is about you, and that's only natural. You almost need to exhaust that. But my question is, so once you've done the marketing bit, what else is there to really kind of keep your audience loyal to you and coming back, and more importantly, sharing and praising your content? So we're using a technique that was invented some time ago of the mentor, messenger, and merchant. You have marketing, mentor, messenger, merchant. It's just a way to kind of help your imagination going. So mentor would be content that you have curated that helps essentially clarify something, that helps your audience learn something new and understand something. Now, clearly, you're not going to curate or invite contribution from the competition. These would be questions about issues, challenges, or aspirations that essentially complement what you do, not compete, but they complement what you do. So again, by being self-aware, the marketing bit, you can obviously share the advice, share the news, and so on and so forth, but that's all about you. How do we make this a richer schedule? How do we actually emulate the behavior of the TV programming? Is by actually curating or inviting submission from others. So the mentor is number one. Can you think about what else they need to know, what would complement your knowledge, and share your findings, whether it's an article, whether it's a video, whether it's a podcast. In doing so, making sure you tag, of course, the author of that article, video, or podcast. The second thing you can do is be the messenger, where, as we mentioned a moment ago with our website content optimization module, we can curate the news of importance to your clients. So again, by knowing who your clients are, what's important to them, what occupation they have, what location, so on, you can do a great job to share the news or the latest updates of importance to them. And finally, the merchant is when you discover something that would be helpful to them, maybe an additional service, an additional product. Perhaps you discovered an app, you discovered an event, you've got a book, you've got a webinar they could attend, something that may require either some commitment in terms of money or time, but again, it complements very, very nicely what you do. And in doing so, you show that not only you want practice, but that's the marketing bit, but you're well researched and well connected, because you can do the mentor, messenger, and merchant elements of your schedule. So having kind of explained the what they are, what you can do is put together a schedule. Now, this example is going to be very crude and very simple, but it's just to give you something to go about. So because marketing comes to you easy, I always say start with the other stuff. So you may decide, for example, that on a Monday, that would be when you do your news roundup. So the news you found, perhaps the previous week or over the weekend, would be shared on a Monday. Then you may decide that on a Wednesday is when you're going to share information that helps me learn something or that answers the questions, something you found that you curated during the week as well. And you may decide that on a Friday you'll share a product, a service, an event, an app, a book, something that would also make life easier for your customers. So now that they've been kind of positioned as part of your programming, it's easier to put the marketing bit. But again, we need to kind of vary things like you would on TV. So maybe Tuesday, it's a product or service update, maybe something you want to remind people of, or maybe something you've changed. On a Thursday, you're going to share some recent case studies or client feedback and so on. And then on the Saturday, you may do actually a full demo on how to get value from your product. And again, I just thought I would give you Sunday off, but you could also do something on the Sunday. That's your decision. And that's using the minimum kind of posting of once a day. Of course, you can increase that. Remember, of course, you are on social media, and unlike TV, we want interaction. We want the like, comment, and shares. So whenever you do something, invite reactions. So you share some news on a Monday, ask about their news, or ask about their reaction to the news you've shared. You share a product update on the Tuesday, ask them what they think, or there's something else that they want you to clarify. If you share someone else's content on the Wednesday, that helps me learn something. Ask about their tips, or do they know anybody else that you should be in contact with, that you should curate information from. On the Thursday, you've got some client feedback on some products, but do they have any ideas of how you might improve your service? Do they have any suggestions how you might improve, the online experience and so on? On the Friday, you shared someone else's product and service, or you shared an event, you shared a book, you shared an app, all those ideas come to mind. Then do they have any other suggestions? So again, we're here to stimulate that conversation. On the Saturday, you did a product demo or a service demo, or you went narrow into a skill set that you teach. Do you want to ask them about what would they like you to cover in next session? So again, this is really, I feel very bad to show you something so crude and simple, but just to kind of bring it alive a bit about what we mean by a richer schedule. Before I move on to tactic number 2, I think I should maybe pause for a moment and get your reaction. So what do you think this, and of course your version would be much better and clearer than this, but as a suggestion to 2 things, how do you feel about this idea of, it's not Twitter, it's not Facebook, it's a digital TV channel? Does that help the imagination? And secondly, as a tactic for a richer schedule, will that help you supplement what will come to you more naturally, which is the marketing bit, the bit in green, if you will, to have messenger, mentor, and merchants? So what do you think? Is that helpful? Can I have a yes? Can I have a maybe? Can I have maybe a not sure in the chat room? That'd be lovely. Thank you very much. I've got quite a few yeses from Caroline, Elise, Marianne. Thanks. And importantly, this is part of the action plan, the imagination. I highly recommend you do this if you can on a whiteboard, or use some of those post-its and whatever. You need to really, and as we mentioned a moment ago, then present it and get a discussion going with your peers and some of your associates. So Amy says, or you do something similar to this. Brilliant. But keep it going and keep the hard work. Karen likes the diversity and variety, so that's great. All right, so that's tactic number 1. If I may humbly suggest that this is non-negotiable for the future, I think you'll appreciate it. So again, good luck with that. But that's what the action plan will translate for you. Let's move on to tactic number 2. Now, let me give you a scenario. So let me go back one step, actually. So on the Monday, on the Wednesday, and on the Friday, you essentially will share someone else's content, someone else's news, someone else's kind of Q&A, someone else's service, and so on. Now, because it's social, and because you're tagging the authors with the @Pascal Fintoni or whichever it might be, they're going to get a notification. They will know that you'll be doing some great work in terms of curation, and they will be in touch with you. They'll say thank you. They'll appreciate the shout out, whichever term they'll do. When somebody gets in touch with you, then respond, obviously, by thanking him again for the feedback and comment, but respond by making an offer. And the offer is as follows. You shared someone else's expert article or someone else's video on how to do something. So that's a mentor, that's a Wednesday. And what you want to do is say to them, listen, thank you very much. The feedback from the audience has been great. I'd love to ask you more questions about it. Are you interested to join me? To join me live on social media. So you shared someone else's content. They got a notification. They got in touch to say thank you. You obviously thank them for the comment and probably for the respective shout out, but you move to the next stage of your kind of social media TV channel programming, which is to go live with your guest to ask further questions about the very article or the very news or the very product that you've shared. And that's kind of fun because nowadays it's much easier to go live than ever before. And the reaction from the audience, but also the reach of that information is quite something. I mean, I've done the comparison between a post and going live, and it's night and day. Some of you will know this already. So what can you do with a live session where you can have, of course, an expert Q&A? So you can extend and expand on the article that you've shared, or the video or the podcast, and invite that person to talk to you more and talk to your audience about it. And that can be done, of course, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. LinkedIn, you need to have been invited. So we're still waiting, many of us, patiently. Maybe if you share the news item, they're going to do more of a news roundup. Say, oh, do you know, there was only one news that I shared and it got people really talking. I'd love to invite you maybe to go live to give us maybe more of the other news that we may have missed. So perhaps at the end of the month, you could do a big August news roundup on that very specific subject and topic. And indeed, if you've done the merchant side, so you've shared someone's product, you shared someone's app, you shared someone's service, or even an event, then you can invite them to do what I called grandly a product spotlight or service spotlight or event spotlight. And what they can do, of course, is then tell you more about the service, the event, the book, the app, what webinar that they're running, and get that. Now, the reason why it's really important that you do it with a guest is back to this idea of the trigger. If you can, and of course you will, go online and do video sessions on your own, but usually it's because it's with an audience that you've recruited and acquired. This is still about building your business and getting more people to know about you that a moment ago didn't know you. So whenever there's a guest, you're the host, the guest will tell their network, hey, check it out. I was interviewed by Amy. I was talking to Peter. I was talking to Andrew. And therefore, you are accelerating the chances for you to recruit new customers. If you do it on your own, less so, although there's merit for that. Okay, so let me check with you again about this idea of going live. Question number one, do you go live on social media? In which case, what has been your experience? Have you gone live with a guest? And if not, how does that feel? The prospect of going live with a guest, how do you feel about it? Let's have a look at that. And Rory, feel free to pop back if we have any questions.
Yes, we have got one question here.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, recently we have been focusing on interacting with customers and trying to find their feedback. We've done this through commenting, asking questions and surveys, but we've not had the most successful results.
Yeah.
How do we encourage customers to talk to us online?
So the reason why they're not talking to you yet, in my humble kind of conclusion, observing this over Christmas, is because they're not a habit. It's a habit thing, and the reason for that is it probably came. I'm extrapolating, Rory, but it probably came quite suddenly. So there was no history of interaction with that account, and suddenly the surveys and this and that, come along, and it's just not. People are still kind of thinking, I'm not sure about this. So two things: be patient, and secondly, ask yourself the question, have you used the platform to date mostly for marketing? Or have you actually done a bit of merchant, messenger, and mentor? So actually, the channel is seen more as a go-to resource. So again, if you've done a lot more about what I call the me kind of social media, there's nothing wrong with that, but it has limitation. What you might find is that actually the post is not seen by many people because of the algorithm. So then you've got two tensions now. You've got the algorithm not showing it to too many people, so your survey is not seen. And secondly, you've got a bit of hesitation from your audience because this is so new to them. The remedy, oddly, is live sessions. If you go live, you break through the algorithm. People, perhaps by the second or third session, once they start to trust you more, they start to interact more. And then what you find is that you do one live session, and you almost kind of have kind of banked lots of goodwill, so that when you move on to more normal form of posting on social media, you're going to get a lot more reaction because more people are seeing it, but also they have the memory of the great fun they had during the live sessions. So I hope that kind of answered the question. But with regard to the lack of interaction, it's not unique to you. It happens to many accounts out there, and it's usually an algorithm issue. Not enough people seeing it, and secondly, just because it's so recent, they're still a bit hesitant.
Yeah, brilliant. That's all the questions we have for now.
Okay, great. So, so I'm just seeing Rory. So Emma saying never and terrifying. Yeah, to a point, but actually, Emma, and to all of you, it is immense fun. And bear in mind that actually your guest is doing all the hard work. You know, they're here to answer your questions. So you're not necessarily on show. Your role is to be there. Elise, I would worry that no one would watch. Yeah, actually, you know, people watch small numbers to begin with. You're going to get 3 or 4, then 10, then 20, then 50. It kind of it is a slow burn. I've got Maddie Cook saying, I was asked to do a live Q&A with an influencer and it massively boosted my sales and audience. Here you go. So you were the guest on this occasion, Maddie. Actually, so you got a benefit. I hope that your host did as well. So listen, you know, live on social is part of the features, and they are rewarded extensively by the platform. They want more live session host. And if you think about this idea of the what do you call it, the TV programming, then you know that's really quite important. Okay, next thing that we'll talk about then is your website. With that in mind, I thought it'd be lovely to do a bit of networking. Would you mind putting in the chat box your website address, the URL to your website, so that actually we can start to know more about each other, but also we can do some networking today and beyond the session. So if you don't mind, I'm going to ask people to put their URLs, and then I'm also going to prepare the visuals that I've got for you. All right, so we've got Melissa, thank you. We've got Marianne. Excellent. Thank you very much for that. So, can you also share with me on the scale of, 1 till 5, how difficult do you find running your website? So 1 being not difficult at all, 5 being difficult. I mean, you find it difficult to get motivated, you find it difficult to sometimes come up with ideas and so on and so forth. From between 1 till 5, 1 being low and 5 being high, how hard it is, this business of running your website? Okay, so a few middle scores and then a few 4s. All right. I mean, I would agree with you. This business of running your website is tricky. It's a very tricky one, and I think primarily because ultimately it's not particularly inspiring. To kind of launch the CMS, whether it's WordPress or Wix or Squarespace or whatever. I just find it very, very difficult, and I do think that because of this lockdown period that we've gone through, it's even harder. So let me see if I can help with that, because ultimately the publication on the website is an important part of your content plan. It's an important part of your action plan for digital. And I think I might be able to help, bear in mind lessons of the past. So back to the visuals. So this is something that I came up with, I would say 2-3 years ago, to help clients who simply said to me, this website stuff, I would find something better to do with my time. I would put it to one side, and then a week becomes a month, and a month becomes half a year before I do that. Now, bear in mind how we've approached website content optimization and your social media. You've got lots of ideas for already the website. You could repurpose so much. But let me give you a new definition of what is meant by website management, and hopefully that will help with this idea of a new mindset. And then I'll show you one technique that I think is going to make a big difference to your website conversion rate, certainly. So to begin with, this idea of the website, I want you to imagine that the website is actually to serve others who could not be there the day you had an amazing meeting or the day you had an amazing customer interaction. So the purpose of the website is to record and share things that have happened in the past. That's the mindset. It may not be true, but that's the way in which your imagination is going to be stimulating. So you had a meeting with a client, you went to an event, you read a book, you delivered a service recently, you answered questions, you completed a proposal, did a quotation, and all those kind of business moments that are away from the computer, you stop for a moment and go, do you know what? If only others had heard this, if only others had read this amazing proposal, if only others knew about that networking event I went to. So the role of the website, in a way, is to record what I'm going to call your many conversations. So the spark of the next web page, or the next way you're going to update the web page, the next blog article on your series, whatever it might be, comes from a conversation, primarily. You might use other devices like keyword research and more, but actually what is going to really excite you and what's going to make you want to do it is because you had a conversation recently, and the memory of the conversation fires you up, and you want to do something. You're also going to be sharing your many connections. So we saw a moment ago how you might do that with website content optimization. We saw how you might do that with the go live tactic of social media. But if you have connections and you do believe that what they know, what they do would be of help to your audience, find a way for them to be featured on the website. And we've seen this. And more importantly, of course, as you go about doing your messenger, merchant, and mentor kind of role as part of your social media, make sure you share your many curations. So the website becomes suddenly something very, very different for you, but of course for the audience, which leads to the conclusion that it's not just mine, it's obviously something that many people out there are thinking about, which is that in 2020 onwards, website would be more than just marketing tools or marketing and sales tools if people can buy from you. I think that there's a wonderful, which I really welcome, maturation process of what websites are all about. And in fact, for me, websites will be the most important digital customer service tool. Customer service, which would be before, during, and after a sales. And you're familiar with the after sales care. And I think that actually websites have a role to play in what I call before sales care. So before someone becomes your customer, there's so much this websites can do to look after them. And it comes from this idea of making the website more than just a record of factual statements about your business, but actually recording the many conversations, the many connections, and the many curations that you have. It also becomes something for you because, not about you, but I'm forgetting lots about what I do. I'm forgetting lots about what I create and so on. And sometimes my website has become a wonderful way to go back because of things that I look into. So with this image of a website being for customer service, which is a close cousin to marketing, then we need to be moving forward. And the number one tactic, because beyond that, you know how websites work, but the number one tactic is one that where you want to surprise your website visitors. And you surprise them because what you're going to say to them is, I get it. The website is not for marketing only. I get it. It's not essentially the end, and then suddenly you're going to fill the contact us form, and then we're all going to be happy ever after. You understand that the website is the beginning of a longer relationships. What you want to do is extend the online experience beyond the website. You're not going to get the phone call just yet. You're not going to get the email inquiry just yet, or sometime you would, but generally people are still going to keep their distances and check you out. So you want to extend the online experience, saying the website is not the end. There's something just after, and the just after. And I think the last few months, for many of you, has proven that that's true. The next stage from the website is for them to join you on a webinar, or to join you on a one-to-one Q&A, or to join you on a training session. Doesn't matter what it is. There is a great recording actually of my webinar session on YouTube, but ultimately on the website itself, there is a very clear diary and very clear offers of when and where being virtually, of course, I can be with you to ask you more questions about whichever topic you specialize in. And the offer on the website of extending the experience via video meetings, which again can be one-to-one, one-to-few, one-to-many, is going to be very important to you, and it has to be part of the action plan. Now, you can decide to do one a week, one a fortnight, one a month. It doesn't really matter. Your time budget will dictate, but it has to be featured on the website clearly, clearly there, easy to find. These are the dates. These are the subject, or the way in which I'm going to essentially interact with you, and hope to see you there. What is interesting, and I've done the experiment with some customers, sometimes just the offer of the webinar, or the offer of the video meeting, or the offer of the free consultation via video is enough for somebody to actually believe in you and trust you and make that next stage of getting in touch differently. But that's very, very important. If you believe in customer service, if you believe in this idea of recording and sharing the many conversation, connections, and curation, you've got to be very careful that this website of yours, is not stuck in the 90s. The website is only one step, or probably a 3-step approach. Step number 1, go on the website. Step number 2, join you on the webinar. Step number 3, pick up the phone or have an email exchange so that can become your customers. So that's really quite important. And we've done a lot of work as part of the program to inspire you to do webinars. Today, almost as clearly as the richer schedule for social media, to not make the offer for somebody to get in touch with you, whether it's a one-to-one, one-to-few, one-to-many via video, is going to be a massive gap in your action plan, and you'll find that it's going to reduce the level of results for you. So we can discuss this during the open Q&A, but what is required of you really is to think about when and where. So nothing is new here. The difference being that you're the host, you'll be talking to your audience. It would be the same. And what would it be different? It'd be the same format and thinking as your go live session on social media. You're either going to be answering questions and give advice. You're either going to give somebody a news update, or you're going to give some demonstration of your products. I call this technology tracker because of my universe, but of course you can do a very different product service demo. So these are the 3 options you can invite people to, but you've got to make that commitment. And there's so many different ways you can do it now, which is great. The technology from Skype to Whereby to Google Meet, that's still around, doing very, very well. GoToMeeting, they have obviously their version GoToWebinars. We've got Zoom, which we use. You can have meetings as well as webinars. Click Meeting is an option. You can also, of course, use Webinar Jam and Easy Webinar. I mean, that's just a short list. They all do the same thing. It's almost about what you're going to be comfortable doing. But there it is, as part of the action plan, which platform, but when, importantly, will you run those sessions? You've got to be seen and heard being helpful. And that begins with a commitment to that availability. So before I kind of wrap up and open the kind of Q&A, I'm just curious, have you had the pleasure of hosting a session, even just a one-to-one via video, or maybe a one-to-few, kind of maybe a yes or not yet? That'd be interesting to know. But this is essentially what we have in mind for you. This is the tactics. So we've got the not yet from Claire, but you can look forward to it. Not yet. Okay, I'm just looking at the response. We've got was it a yes from Amy? Excellent. So only team meetings for now from Janet, not yet. We've got a yes from Andrew. So that's very interesting. Maddie says, webinars have made the biggest impact on my business. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's important that others hear from you as well as just from me. Many are thinking about it, things we need to. So here you are. If you don't take a hint from what's been happening the last few months, where people have been now more online than ever before, but more importantly, that it is important to stand out from the crowd. Think about it, for all of you that have said no or not yet, I think that's very much a mirror of the current landscape. So in your sector, in your industry, you would be probably the only one doing it. How are they going to help you stand out? And of course, those sessions can be repurposed and reshared on social media and so on and so forth. So it will be part of your action plan. It's just a question of knowing and committing to the subject matter, and then the programs can help you with both the platforms, the tech, and the process of going about it. So I'm just mindful of time. So I think I'm trying to do this properly. Here we go. I won't be able to. So my last bit of advice for you is this. I remember the slide number. You're going to have to go away from today and reflect. And then you're going to have to go away from today and discuss it further. And my suggestion would be, where possible, bear in mind current circumstance, if you could move away from the laptop, if you could move away from that corner in the house or the office that you always use to do all manner of things, but find somewhere that would be inspiring to stimulate your information, please do so. That's very, very important, that reflection stage, and using some of the tactics that you have. Remember, this is about very simple things done very well, very often. It's been a pleasure to share my kind of recommendation about how to create an action plan that will give you better and faster results. The details are known to you, the platforms are known to you, but the number one ingredient that you have to really stimulate and engage is your imagination. This is the only way and the only element that's going to help you stand out from the crowd. Do trust me on that one. So once again, big thank you to the team at UMI for organizing this session. They are the driving force behind the Digital Knowledge Exchange and Digital Drive Coming Down, programs. I was Pascal Fintoni. It was a pleasure looking after you. We're now going to close the recording and open the Q&A. Thank you very much.